In this video, I want to record a reading of Isaiah 61, verses 1 to 3. Of course, Hebrew reads from right to left, and so this is where Hebrews 61:1 begins. So, we have the first word, resh, shurek, chet, and then it's pronounced ruach. That little patak there is called a furtive patak. It sneaks in when you have a oo sound followed by a guttural. You almost have to make an a sound to get from a u sound or an oo sound to a guttural sound. Spirit. Spirit, Adonai, which is of course the word for Lord, Adonai. And then here's the name of God, Yahweh. Usually when you have this combination, Adonai, Yahweh, it is translated Lord God with God in all caps. When it's just Yahweh by itself, it's usually translated Lord in all caps. But when you have the combination Adonai, Yahweh, then usually it's the God that's in all caps. Alai, this is two words, upon me, that's a pronominal suffix. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me. There's no word for is, you have to insert it. Ya'an is a word that we haven't taught, but should have been in our preposition list. Ya'an means because mashak. Mashak is a verb, and so it will have a particular tense that you can look up, and it means because he anointed. The verb typically comes after, the noun subject of a verb usually comes after it, and such is the case here. Yahweh, who anointed? Yahweh anointed. Yahweh anointed OT. Yahweh anointed me. This is a combination again of et and the pronominal suffix or the e, two parts that you should find familiar from your Hebrew studies. Because the Lord has anointed me, he has anointed me le va sher. Le should be familiar, and va sher is a particular kind of infinitive, the one that can take a preposition on the front. He has anointed me to preach good news. This is the word for preaching good news that we find in Isaiah 52:7, which I personally think was in the back of Jesus and John the Baptist's mind in terms of the gospel, the good news, Jesus' mind especially. Anavim, to proclaim good news to the poor ones, it's a plural. Shalakani, he sent me. Again, it's a verb with a object suffix there. He sent me la kavosh, to and here my vocabulary is failing me, so let me flip over to another relevant site for this assignment, and that is interlinearbible.org. We've already read here. Where are we at? The Lord Lord anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He sent me to bind. Okay. So let's go back now to bind. Kavosh is the word there. By the way, you might also use the parsing guide for this particular assignment to help you know the forms and the parsings. All of these parsings are relevant to the assignment, and it gives you some of the answers. He sent me to bind the la. Again, these are both of these las are prepositions you should have seen, and this is therefore a kind of infinitive that takes a preposition. You can look it up. So to bind up la, nish, ba, re, lave. This seriod is a construct marker. So to bind the broken of heart. Lave means heart, and so this would be a participle of a certain kind. I think if in the parsing, let's see if I'm right. If you go to the parsing guide of verse 1, I think we're going to find that this is a nifal. Yep, see, it has an N in the front, that it's a participle. It is construct, which unfortunately this parsing guide doesn't tell you. Participles can have the characteristics of an adjective. This tells you what the word is and the basic definition. So he sent me to bind up the broken ones of heart. Lik, ro. There's again a particular preposition, and therefore this is an infinitive, the kind of infinitive that takes a preposition. To call, lish, vu, rim. Now probably that's lish, vu, rim. If you remember, and you may not, no problem if you don't, but the hirik yod mem is a masculine plural ending. And so usually we would expect there to be another yod there. But Hebrew doesn't always put those mothers of reading, matres lectionis, the vav and the yod, when they serve as a piggyback for a vowel. Hebrew didn't always put those, and when it's not there, it's called defective writing. Probably the yod's not there because there was already a yod here, and they thought it would look weird to write yeyim, or yim, with two yods next to each other. I'm just guessing. But again, this is looks like a participle with a preposition on it, a participle that's plural. Let's see, let's go to the parsing guide and see if that's a participle. And it is. It's in fact a passive participle. Being captive is the translation. So, to call to the ones who are captive, de roar, liberty, freedom, to the ones who are captive. By the way, you'll notice that this interlinearbible.org is great. It's a wonderful opportunity, but the translations are not always as tight and helpful as we might prefer, but it's definitely better than nothing. To call to those who are being captive, liberty. V, la, as, u, rim, and to, again another participle, and to the. Now what does this mean? Let's look it up. There it is, very long. Call, passive participle, masculine plural from asar, which means to tie. Okay, so the being bound ones, and to those who are bound, pakak koak. What does that mean, pakak koak? It's an idiom. It's not used. I think this may be the only place in the whole Hebrew Bible where this idiom is used, and it's something like opening of opening is kind of what it seems to be saying. And basically opening of eyes. So, and to the what did we say that one meant? To the being bound, opening of eyes. Sight to the blind, I think, is the way it's usually or often translated. Well, that's verse 1. Verse 2. Likro. Again, same form, right next to each other. By the way, this is the way mistakes in manuscripts often took place. If you had a a line that began or ended with the same basic letters, and the eye of the copyist might skip from one to the other. So to call Shanat Ratzon La Yahweh, to call the year of favor. Again, that makaf there, this is and the vowels of all the length of the vowels has been sucked out of them. So this is in the construct, the year of favor for the Lord, or in honor of the Lord, or in reference to the Lord, something like that. Vayom, and the day of, I'm just guessing that this is in construct, that the accent is kind of pointing that direction. And the day of Rakam, the day of, let's find out, what is that, Rakam? I'm going to have to go to the interlinear to find Rakam. The day of vengeance. Now this has Nakam. Interesting. Nakam, and it's actually, yeah, it's Nakam. I misread it. Sorry, I don't know how I did that. So the year of vengeance, the day of vengeance. Now, by the way, day here is not a 24-hour day, but a regular period or day. Day of vengeance. Jesus, of course, stopped reading here. Jesus didn't continue reading to the vengeance part. He stopped with the year of favor. He reads this in Luke 4 at the beginning of his ministry. He reads it in the synagogue of Nazareth to say this is taking place. This is his ministry. Luke understands Jesus' ministry primarily in terms, his earthly ministry, primarily in terms of this passage here, that he's come to give good news to the poor and sight to the blind, liberty to the captives, and so forth. The second part comes at the second coming, the day of vengeance. Le lo heinu, le lo heinu, for our God. Elohim is hidden in the middle there. Nu means our, it's a pronominal suffix, so for our God. Okay, so next line. So it's here to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance for our God. Le na came, and to comfort. Again, you have a infinitive with a preposition on front. Kol, to comfort all. That's a kametz katuf. To comfort all. Avelim, all the ones who are. So I'm assuming that's a participle again. Let's see. Nope, it's not a participle. It must be a noun. So let's go over here and see what it means. To comfort all the ones who are mourning. It is a participle, I believe. It's not in the parsing guide, but this is, I believe, a call, masculine plural participle. The mourning, to comfort all the mourners, all the ones mourning. Okay, so then we go into verse 3. Lashuv. Again, we have another infinitive with a preposition on the front. Lashum, what does it mean? Let's look it up. Verse 3, Lashum, to put, la, a, vele. This looks like this word here, doesn't it? Aval. To put to the ones, the mourners of, to the ones mourning of Zion, to the mourners of Zion. Again, this isn't a participle. It's a masculine plural participle, but it's construct. Sarayot is a construct for the masculine plural. To the mourners of Zion, to put to the mourners of Zion, and latate, to give, that's a preposition on an infinitive again, to give, lahem, to them, pa'er, takat. When you have this in the Hebrew Bible, it means there wasn't enough room on the line, And so this means they've gone up to finish the line. Takat a pair. Takat means, it can mean under, but it also can mean instead of. And that's what it means in these next few verses, instead of. So to give to them, so to put them to put at rest, probably, to put at rest the ones who are mourning of Zion, and to give to them pa'er takat eber. What does that mean? Let's look at the interlinear here. To give them a garland, pa'er, instead of ashes, a fair. To give them, and you can look ahead if you want, to give them shemen, to give them oil, son, oil of gladness, so I'm assuming this is in construct and the accent is pointing in this direction, to give them oil of gladness, takat ebel, instead of mourning. You can see these three letters, aleph, beit, lamed, aleph, beit, lamed. It's always had something to do with crying or mourning. So to give them an oil of gladness instead of mourning. Ma'ate, what does that mean? Let's find out. Ma'ate, a mantle of tahillah, a mantle of praise, in takat ruach, instead of a spirit keha, of fainting. So back here again, a mantle, ma'ate, it's in construct apparently, and you can see it's pointing this direction. A mantle of tahillah, a mantle of praise, takat, instead of ruach. We had that back at the beginning. Ruach. Find Waldo. Find the same words. Spirit of keha. A spirit, instead of a spirit of sadness, you're going to give them a mantle of praise. The korah. This is the same word as call up here, a different form. I think it's probably a participle. And calling, lahem, calling to them, a lay ha zedek, calling to them something of the righteousness. There's the word the on it. Let's get these words. What are the words? So a mantle of praise instead of a spirit of fainting, and calling to them a lay, oaks of righteousness, and comma, a mata, a planting of Yahweh. That's what they're going to be called. They're going to be called, he's going to call them oaks of righteousness and a planting of the Lord. And then this last word, if you look in the parsing guide, and I would have guessed this, see the hit in the middle? This is a hithpael form. I haven't seen a lot of those. And so it's la hit pa air, and this is to glorify. So the hithpael has a reflexive sense, to glorify himself. So you have a preposition on what must surely be a particular kind of infinitive, the one that takes prepositions. So they will be oaks of righteousness. They will be a planting of Yahweh in order that he might glorify himself, something like that. And so this has been Isaiah 61, 1-3. There are, not only at this point of the course should you be able to pronounce that entire section, but you should be able to, I've actually told you again a lot of the points that we've already learned, but you should know or be aware of most of the grammar bits that I have mentioned in there. You can certainly find at least 10 to mention in your paper.